everyone, to GraphQL Scale 2022. We're going to move on and have our next presentation. I hope everyone got a stretch and got a drink and maybe had a few minutes of chat in the networking rooms, but we are back on our information and our great presentation. So next up, we have Adam Hall, our principal technologist at AndDigital, to talk to us a little bit about steering through technological change. Adam, how's it going today?
Oh, it's going good. I'm looking forward to this.
Awesome. Well, take the stage and teach us about steering.
Okay, steering technological change, deciding the tech trends for your organization. So thank you very much for coming to listen to me. I found Mark's talk really fascinating. I thought there was some really good insight in there. BHAGs is something that we are quite passionate about at AndDigital as well. So very good to see that there. So I'm going to be talking to you about steering through technological change, but I thought I'd introduce myself. So I was formerly an agile coach and waste reducer. So at AndDigital, we're quite passionate about people bringing their personalities to all situations. I like to reduce waste. So that's reducing the amount of plastics that I'm using, for example. A little bit about me. I love technology. So I'm now a technologist. I've been focusing on agile in particular for the last 5 years. And I'm working in a company of 1,800 very smart people at AndDigital. And I got a new job role. So as you can see, I'm no longer an agile coach. I am a principal technologist, which is very exciting. And as I got that new job, I was given my first assignment, a nice holy grail type task. And that was to analyze over 150 technologies to figure out which ones are the best, to help our staff decide which technologies to upskill in, to also help our clients decide which technologies to adopt, and to also set the whole technology direction for the business that I was working in, and deliver this in 1 month. And I realized my holy grail assignment was more like a kind of poison chalice. So I looked at what we'd done in the past, and we had this nice visualization of various technologies. And I thought, how am I going to produce something like this? Going back to more about me. So yes, I love technology, but that means I'm also quite opinionated about technology. I've been focused on agile for the last 5 years, which kind of means that I'm a bit out of touch. I'm in a company of 1,800 smart people, which probably means a lot of them are smarter than me. And I've got a brand new job role, which means there's high expectations. So I was feeling a little bit like an imposter. And I'm sure, hopefully, other people have had this imposter syndrome feeling. So I turned to my best sort of leadership advice that I've been drawing on in the recent years that I've been working as a leader in technology in various organizations. And David Weinberger's quote, I think, is just perfect. So the smartest person in the room is the room. And there's actual science behind this. So it's the wisdom of crowds, if you've ever heard about that. But scientific studies have shown that if you get a jar full of sweets and you ask people to guess how many sweets there are in the jar, people get very wild and very varied different guesses. But what's interesting is the average guess, as in if you add up all of those numbers and then average it out, tends to be more accurate than any individual guesser. So I needed to apply this wisdom of crowds to the science of trying to work out what the best technologies to adopt are. So I came up with a load of workshops that we were going to go through as a company to try and help us get to this area. So these were ideation workshops. But the first thing I had to do was decide how was I going to facilitate these workshops to really get under the skin. So I had some ideas about, do I want it to be synchronous or asynchronous? And I'll get on to what those mean in a moment. Do I want it to be democratic or autocratic? Do I want it to be fast, because I've only got a month to do it, or thorough? Now, AndDigital, one of the things that we like to think of ourselves is when you're facing two what looks like competing decisions, is to actually apply and philosophy to it. So where is the intersect between each of these ideas? So on the next slides, I will be showing you where I found those intersects. But before I do that, I'll show you a quick sort of condensed view of what these workshops actually look like in reality. So what you're watching here is 5 separate workshops that have been condensed into 40-second video. And it's a very sort of agile, it's a very exciting, energetic workshop that we actually came up with. I'll talk through each of the principles that were applied to make this workshop design, and perhaps you can unlock some of this talent in your organizations as you're trying to work out which technologies should we be using, what should we be working on, how should our approach be. Cool. So I'll go straight on to the principles I applied. So I spoke about this a moment ago, synchronous and asynchronous. So not everybody's come across the word synchronous. I'm dyslexic, so I actually like to understand words a bit more. So synchronous, that doesn't mean anything. So when you look it up, it means existing and occurring at the same moment in time. A meeting is synchronous. What's happening now is synchronous, because we are all gathered here together to have this that we're doing. But the problem is, you can't get a company of 1,000 people to get together for a meeting. That's a very expensive meeting. People are busy, we have jobs to do, and in fact, being in client services, we can't just drop all clients and attend a meeting. So I had an awareness that not everybody would attend the meeting, but I needed some way of having asynchronous ideation into these workshops that I was doing. Asynchronous means not existing or occurring at the same time. So how did we do it? Firstly, we use Slack internally, but you can do this on Teams or whatever. Try and keep the noise ratio low. So not everybody in the company wants to hear about a workshop that I, Adam Hall, running to try and set our technical direction. So I split down into 5 key areas: back-end, data, front-end, mobile, platform. They just seemed like nice themes to run around. And then I created these channels. These were public channels on our internal systems, so anyone could join them. They weren't locked down. And the whole philosophy about that was to try and keep the communication where it was based. So the noise ratio, it wasn't me shouting to everybody in the organization, but I was trying to get them to come to the channels if I thought they'd be interested. The next thing is announce early and send reminders. Remember, everybody communicates in different ways. So Slack was one method of communication. I was sending emails, I was creating calendar events. I also recorded Loom videos, which I have to say, if you are a tech lead working in a large organization, Loom videos are a lifesaver. If you can record your ideas in 5 minutes, it saves tons of meeting times that you don't need to have, and people can watch them in their own time. So I'm a big fan of services like Loom. I know Microsoft Teams has some good recording capabilities as well. Cool. The next thing is to create a tribe, not a clique. So what I actually did is we created these lovely branded themes for each of the different domains. So here you can see front-end, data, mobile, back-end. I'm actually using AI art to generate some of these, but it's quite a nice way to just make it feel like, oh, this is special, but not so special that people can't join. So whenever I was messaging, as you can see a sort of sign above that, please feel free to get people interested in the workshop and forward them the calendar invite if they can attend. The whole idea about this is it's not an elite club set by only leaders in the organization. I'm a big believer in trying to get everybody's voice listened to. So that's the importance of creating a tribe. And the other thing you want to try and do is invite discussions early. So we've got these Slack channels, and I wanted to gather some ideas so that we went into the actual workshops with ideas laid out on the table. And then what we actually applied in the workshop was thinking around those ideas. Cool. So we'll go on to the second values, which is democratic and autocratic. So what I mean by democratic, democracy, as in everybody has a vote, everybody gets to say your opinions count. But autocratic as well, that's when there's a leader and they make the decisions. Well, I think good leaders need to canvass the opinion of the people around them before they make the decisions that they're making. So how did we do this? Stick to the dates. Every time you create one of these workshops, I swear, people will say, oh, can you move it? I can't do it. I'm on leave this week. Yes, you cannot move it. Stick to the dates, stick to the plan, and make sure that people sort of get that sort of feeling like, if this is important to me, I can drop things to attend the meeting. But also, because we've done things asynchronously, we can still canvass their opinion. So if there is somebody who is particularly key to the decisions being made in this meeting, then just make sure you have a private meeting with them beforehand. It can be asynchronous. The next one is that everybody plays in the workshop. So what you can see here is actually during one of the workshops, there's a turn counter. So all of the people who are present in the meeting are listed on one of the sides of the Miro board that we were using. And every time somebody has a turn, they move it. They move it to the next person, who moves it to the next person. And that means everybody gets to play. I don't know if you've ever had to sit in a meeting where very opinionated people really want to get their views across about a technology that they might not even be using. So it's just a good way to make sure that every voice is heard. The next thing is the outcome of the workshop is a state in time. That is, that's the kind of ideas based on the workshop, but that's not when the work is finished. So there should be a decider who looks at the output of the workshop and then decides based on that output what the ultimate opinion of the company is going to be. Now, the beautiful thing about this is there was very little that had to be decided because the workshop works so well. There's only things about contested areas, which I'll get onto in a moment. And the next thing is just share the plan, share what you're doing, share what you did. So I kept on recording like explainer videos of what was just about to happen. Every time we ran one of these workshops in one of the domains, I shared it with the other domains to get them interested, excited, and sort of start to think about what was going on. And then once we'd finished workshops, I'd do a roundup, a sort of brief thing about what's the key moments of contention were during the workshop. So cool. The final value is fast and thorough. How can you be thorough and fast? So Mark said in his talk something that is very important. Documentation is important. So I did this in the workshop by, we listed all of the technologies we knew about before the workshops, but I didn't really feel like going through hundreds of technologies and finding all their logos. So I made it part of the workshop itself that as we go, we find the logos and put them in to make it a bit more visually appealing. So as you can see, this person is just putting in the Express logo that they found online. Next one is keep it energetic. I don't know if you've noticed, but I do love to bring energy to meetings, to presentations. So the turn counter that I showed previously is a great way of just keeping the energy. It's so easy if you're in a status update meeting to wait for your status update, to do your status update, and then start doing some work while pretending to be on the call. That's not good behavior, but to, rather than confronting it, actually make the workshop energetic and interesting so people don't want to switch off. The next one is being technologists, we do like to debate and argue for things. So in this particular example, there's a person who has decided Swift UI is better than React Native. So they're putting it further to the right. Now, I want to record the fact that we're having debates around a specific technology, but I don't want to just have the, oh, Swift UI is better than React. React is better than Swift. I don't want to have that debate over and over. It's more, I want to register that this is a contested issue, and that needs to go to a decider in a later thing. So allow focused debates in their own time box at a time that is different from the actual meeting itself. And then once again, just bring the data to the decision maker. I'm a strong believer in good meetings, really productive meetings, have a space in between them to have thinking time. So if you're ever running, a full day's workshop, try and cut it up so that the first half of the workshop happens on one day, have a sleep in the middle, and then have the second half of the workshop on the second day. These particular ones were only an hour long, but the output was given to the decision maker, who would then decide about what the contested things should be, but only after they'd slept on it and thought through the actual problems. So that is all of the different qualities, and I'll show again the workshops being run. So 5 different workshops are being run, an hour long each, and they're being run in 40 seconds here altogether. And you can see how, to begin with, you've got these flood of the technologies. You then draw a line where you think roughly 30% of the different technologies are within each domain. So that's the lines you see. And then ultimately you have the fists, which are showing this is contested, where we need to have debates around this. So it's a really fun exercise to run, and it's really fast, and you get a really good output. So what I will show you now is we had 150 people involved in this. So I don't think it would have been very easy to do a survey of 150 people, get that many responses, and then turn it into an actionable thing at the end. But by doing these workshops, it really helped us do that. We discussed 250 technologies, and we had 50 contentious technologies debated. And what it has become is this beautiful visualization. In fact, we've got a website link that will be in the slide deck that people can go and look at. So these are our opinions on which technologies are growing and really exciting, which technologies you should probably continue to use, and then the sort of technologies which we believe are slowing and maybe you shouldn't be investing so much effort into upkeeping. And because this is a GraphQL conference, I have to say it was really easy to make this visualization because we were using a GraphQL database as a backend. What that allowed us to do was split the work of actually entering all the data across multiple different people who would just enter their data points, which worked really well. So we use HighGraph for this because as a CMS, it's just a really great way to play with GraphQL without having to get everybody's hands dirty in the code. So there we go. There's our 3 core values and ways to actually instigate it. And it's also a good framework for thinking about how you can design any sort of workshop if you're struggling to lead within an organization. Thank you very much for your time. Does anyone have any questions?
All right, Q&A time. I love it. So first and foremost, let's get some applause in chat for Adam. This is a great presentation. I for one, am a huge fan of workshops. Having been a UX professional in the past, I adore workshops. So one question that I've got, and as we wait for questions in chat, is around the turn-based system. I love that because it's like a game system, which always increases engagement. But how do you get somebody who's maybe traditionally a lurker to, when it's their turn to like bring an opinion, they might feel reticent for that? How do you kind of pull that out of them without making them uncomfortable?
That's a really good question, Brian. I think everybody, because they can see it happening before them, they are brought into the process. But there were definitely people who said, "Oh, I don't really have an opinion on any of these technologies." And so I said, the first time this happened in one of the workshops, I said, "Okay, guess." And if somebody disagrees, then they can move it afterwards, because there is that ability to do things later. And it actually provided good discussion points, because people learned things. So they'd picked up a technology they'd never heard of, they placed it on the board, and somebody said, "Oh, that's about this." And I love to see those moments of people learning things.
Nice. Let's see. No questions yet. So I love taking questions. Uh, one of the things I kind of noticed is I'm a longstanding community builder. It's what I've been doing for a long time now, and it seems like with all the things you were talking about, it's almost exactly the same as building an asynchronous community as well. Is there validity to that statement, or am I off base?
Oh, no, it totally is. And I think what I didn't quite realize when I was getting myself into this role was it is community building. So right now we are creating community of practices around each of these different domains that we've created. And our next endeavor, that I'm sure will become another nice GraphQL based database, is how we create pathways for the different domains. So as a back-end developer, how do I get from being okay here to being an expert? And so, yeah, we're building communities. I'm designing new workshops that allow us to do it. But yeah, it's very much community building, and you need to do it. And bear in mind that people will be asynchronous. When you've got people coming from all over the world, you can't have a meeting any time of the day that suits everybody.
As someone who's been doing global work for a few years now, it's a challenge to get that synchronous time. And
Exactly.
speaking of async, you mentioned y'all are using Slack. You mentioned like Teams and some other platforms like that. Sometimes, even though those are technically like an async tool, they can feel super synchronous. So how
Yes.
can maybe a team make sure that that doesn't feel required to have immediate interactions?
So I quite like dedicated channels that can move slower. So occasionally you'll get a bit of feedback around a particular area, and debate happens. But I am a big encourager of making threads. So you might have seen in the slides, I've said, okay, can you drop ideas in the thread? Because I want there to be placeholders for the key bits of information, and then threads for the debate around each of those. So it's almost like pinned moments. I think Discord is particularly good at this. Teams is particularly good at this. Slack, not so much, but yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
We have a question in chat from Matthew Clark. Do you have any issues engaging siloed teams or alienated parts of an organization like corporate IT or legacy technology owners?
Oh, that is really so. There's definitely, it's difficult to engage with everybody, and I think it's just being mindful. So my job is to make sure that they don't feel left out. So I definitely had some people who didn't hear about the workshops and weren't really given enough time to prepare anything. So because I only had a month, I was running quite rapidly. And I think if I could play it again, I would just give myself probably a month buffer to say, this is the workshop happening. And then various weeks, as it runs up, drop the right messages. In terms of legacy, so we know that with our technology horizons, we are having opinions. So there are people who will look at it and go, wait a minute, the thing that I'm learning today, you're saying you shouldn't support. And every scenario is different. So there will be companies who have amazing legacy based systems. I think those companies just need to be aware that it is hard to hire for legacy areas. But if it's such a good product, you don't need to change it, then you don't necessarily need to worry about it. But yes.
Perfect. All right, Adam. Well, thank you so much for sharing all these insights today, and have a great rest of your day.
Cool. Thank you, Brian. Cheers, everyone. Bye.